Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
I'm cautious about it. You know, like any type of investment thing, like anything can go up and down, so it's going downwards right now. I'm waiting to see if it keeps on downward or if it's just gonna go back up again.
I'm not thinking of getting any other dose.
How come?
It's not like a requirement anymore.
At this time, I am announcing that I will not be seeking the mayor's seat, but also that I will not be running for re-election in Ward 3.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a look at the continued cool down of Windsor's previously hot housing market. And it's happening even faster than some expected. The average home price for June is the lowest we've seen in the last 6 months. Our Jennifer LaGrassa is breaking down the numbers for us and joins us now live. Jen, how significant is this shift that we're seeing in the local housing market?
Katerina, what was once a seller's market has now tilted to a much fairer playing field. Since March, we've seen that the average house price has been slowly trending downwards, but what we're seeing right now is the lowest all year. The latest stats show us that last month, the average sale price for a home in Windsor, Essex dropped to about $607,700. That's a difference of $40,000 from May, and it's down significantly from March when the average price was more than $720,000. But the price is still higher than June of last year, so we are up in comparison. A realtor I spoke with today told me the drop we're seeing is due to that increase in interest rates, and we're expected to see those rates rise yet again.
When the rate increase settles in, everybody, the buyer and the seller, both parties will calm down a bit more. We have to be kind of objective, from 2021 to 2022, the rise is too quick. So I think now we are kind of, normalize the market, which is, I think, is good for both parties, the sellers and the buyers, because, we are getting into a more balanced market.
Another interesting trend to note is that we are seeing the most number of homes available on that market, yet the sales are down.
And Jen, obviously a lot of people feel like they've got a stake in this, whether they're trying to sell or they've been looking to buy for some time. So how are people feeling about this latest trend?
Based on those I spoke with, both sellers and buyers, neither one of them is particularly thrilled with the current market. One Windsor resident that I spoke to, she's currently renting. She was looking to buy, but the pandemic drove prices up way too much for her. So while she's happy to see them going back down now, she says it's still not enough.
I'm hoping it keeps going down. Like the average Windsorite makes less household. The average Windsorite household makes under $60,000. And we make a little over that average, and that equals to like a less than $300,000 house. So $600,000 is still way out of our price range. But if it's going down, hopefully we'll continue to see it go down until it's more affordable.
Another Windsor resident that I spoke with is already in the market. He's looking to sell his current home and buy another one in Windsor.
I think it really is about right now the uncertainty is our biggest concern with home values appearing to fall. As someone who's trying to buy a place, not wanting to overpay because we're also having to sell our place and worried that we may not sell it for as much as we could have a few months ago. So what should that gap be? So just a lot of uncertainty right now, kind of feeling out the current market.
The realtor, Maggie Chen, told me that while she's not sure for how long, she is expecting the prices to continue to drop. Katerina.
Thanks for this, Jen. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reporting live for us tonight. The Ontario Science Table warned today that we have entered a summer wave of COVID-19, driven by the Omicron BA.5 subvariant. CBC News sat down with the province's Chief Medical Officer of Health today.
Watched how it's affected England, the United States, Quebec, and so far I'm very pleased that it hasn't had a significant impact on our health system and that we're absolutely able to cope with current numbers. It will get a little worse over the coming week or 10 days and then decrease. That's our expectation, having followed these waves, now our third Omicron wave so far this year.
Dr. Moore says BA.5 currently accounts for 2/3 of circulating strains. He anticipates this wave to be smaller than more recent waves, but added people can be reinfected by BA.5 even if recently infected with an earlier strain of Omicron. Dr. Moore added 5 million Ontarians have not taken advantage of getting their first booster, and that protection from the vaccine wanes at around 5 or 6 months. Ontario's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table also called on people to get their vaccines if they haven't already. And while many have received their second doses of the vaccine, when it comes to booster shots, the numbers are lagging. Our Jacob Barker took a look at how people here in our region are feeling about getting another shot, and he joins me now live in studio. So, Jacob, what do people think about getting their boosters?
Well, Katerina, if the statistics have anything to say about it, about half the population doesn't think much. Vaccine uptake here in Windsor and the province for the first 2 shots was over 80%. But if you look at how many people got the third dose, that's way down, with the provincial average at around 50%, and Windsor is nearly 5% less than that. Earlier this week, some doctors in the province were pushing the province to approve 4th shots of vaccine for adults under the age of 60, something that's already happening in Quebec. Many, if not all, that I spoke with today on the streets of Windsor here only had 2 doses, but they weren't against the idea of approving more booster shots.
If the higher authorities approve them and it is a necessity for our health, then I think we should get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have all 3 doses now?
I have 2.
You have 2.
I got 2, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the province of Quebec, they have made it available for people. Do you think that they should make it available for people who want it here?
If someone really wanted it, if someone is really concerned about that thing, they should get it. But we can't force people for it, and it depends upon the risk. If the COVID risk is very high, then people should get it. Otherwise, there is no need, I think.
I feel like if it becomes a necessity, I mean, earlier it used to be like if you're having the dose, you were only allowed at certain places. I feel like if it becomes a necessity again, I can get that dose.
Yeah. They've already allowed it to happen next door in Quebec, the province of Quebec. Yeah. So do you think that they should make that allowance here in the province?
Yeah, definitely. If the doctor thinks they know about the people better, so if they think that it should be better for the people, definitely people should get it.
I probably wouldn't. I think I'm good with 2, but other than that, if it's other people want to, I think the choice should be there. But I don't think it should be mandatory by any means.
Would you take a 4th dose?
I would take a 4th dose.
Okay. Do you have your 3rd dose?
I do.
Okay. Why would you take the 4th dose?
To protect myself. I like to travel a lot.
Would you take a 4th dose if it was available?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. How come?
Because I believe in vaccines.
Yeah.
I believe the science, and I think it's not going to hurt anybody. So why not make that effort to protect your loved ones?
Now, I should note that the federal government has said that booster doses are important because the protection you do get from your initial doses goes down over time.
Jacob, what are health officials saying about the availability of a 4th dose?
Well, the Ministry of Health did not respond to my question today as to whether they're considering another booster for adults or whether they had the capacity to do so. But late last month, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization recommended that people at high risk of disease should be offered a booster shot come fall, and that others between the ages of 12 and 64 may be offered another dose in the fall as well. But a biostatistician that I spoke with says that here in Ontario, the province dropped the ball when it came to getting those 3rd doses out, and that now is the time to be encouraging people to get their boosters.
What I would not want to see is us wait until the fall, see numbers keep on ticking up, and then start vaccination when we're seeing hospitalization numbers already tick up. It's gonna be really, really difficult to mobilize vaccination units at that time. What we need to do is open them up now. So what's gonna happen is that if we open up vaccines, we get the note out there that vaccination is good. It's not just gonna get people having their 4th dose, it's also gonna get some of those people who missed their 3rd dose to get that 3rd dose.
I did also reach out to the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit. It only says it will continue to follow the guidance from the province when it comes to COVID-19 vaccine dose eligibility and schedules, and that it encourages people to stay up to date with their COVID-19 and other vaccinations.
Thanks for this, Jacob. CBC's Jacob Barker reporting live in studio tonight. The city councillor who many thought would run for mayor says he won't be. Reno Bordelin, councillor for Ward 3, made the announcement this morning. He also went further to say he won't rerun for his council seat either.
Definitely a hard decision. It's why it's taken this long. I mean, you know, the consideration was given back in the winter, and it's taken this long to really decide to move on. I mean, like I said, I love the job in so many ways. So moving on was a hard decision.
Bordelin says he wants to spend more time with family, but even though he won't be on council, don't expect him to be quiet or less critical.
I can assure you, I will not stop being vocal on municipal issues. In fact, I may be louder and more direct than ever. I've always felt that we have an immense potential here in Windsor, and working within the confines of City Council has proven to be inefficient in the sense that we leave so much on the table. There is so much more Council can be doing but chooses not to.
August 19th is the deadline for anyone wishing to throw their hat in the municipal race. The local election takes place October 24th. The City of Windsor is spending $180 million to upgrade 36 sewer projects. The investment is all about flood prevention.
Weather events like the record-shattering storm in 2017 have highlighted the need to adapt our existing infrastructure to the future climate. During those storms, the city received over 6,200 reports of flooding from residents.
That storm resulted in $175 million worth of damage in the city. It's that flooding that led City Council to expedite work on the city sewer master plan. Geniac says while they cannot control weather, this work now underway will lessen the impact of climate change. The federal government continues to face questions about the Arrive Can app and whether it's here to stay. Last week, one minister said it could be used beyond the pandemic. And words from the Deputy Prime Minister today continue to reinforce the sense it's sticking around a while longer, despite calls for change from businesses and border city mayors.
COVID is still here. We are seeing in some parts of the country some resurgences of COVID. So we need to remember that we may not be through this yet. And we need to, even as we need to be prepared to loosen things up, we also need to be prepared to be prudent and careful going forward. So that's the balancing act our government is going to strike, constantly reviewing things. Everything is up for discussion. And that's how we've done it so far. That's what we're going to continue to do.
Patrick Brown fires back. After being disqualified from the federal Conservative leadership race due to allegations of wrongdoing, Brown is giving his side of the story. Lorenda Redekop spoke with him.
We felt we had the points to win, and I really believe it was the party establishment wanting to make sure that Pierre Poilievre didn't lose.
Patrick Brown today blaming another candidate in the Conservative race, the two seen as on opposite ends of the Conservative spectrum.
I've challenged some of the orthodoxy of traditional conservatism. I've said very clearly, it doesn't matter who you love, where you're born, the color of your skin, what God you worship. I'm going to build a party that fights for everyone.
Last night, the party's Leadership Election Organizing Committee dumped Brown. It said the current Brampton mayor was being dropped due to serious allegations of wrongdoing related to financing rules. Brown says he's not clear what exactly the complaint is about.
How do you respond to an anonymous allegation? They said that there was someone in our campaign who was being paid by a corporation. They wouldn't give us the name of the individual. They wouldn't give us the name of the corporation. We had 1,800 volunteers on our campaign.
Some Brampton City councillors came out with an allegation. They say hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts went to a firm where a Brown political ally worked. Brown says that allegation has already been proven false after an investigation.
I had no stake in the game regarding the Conservative Party. I don't want to interfere on the leadership, but certainly it hurts our reputation and our image as a city of Brampton when what's happening there. And then after we have ongoing investigations here. So it just seems that there's a pattern that's consistently involved the city of Brampton.
The councillors are also frustrated 4 city council meetings have been cancelled over the past months, including the one today.
We're here to do the job, 5 of us, and the other Councillor Santos and the other councillors don't show up. At the end, you know, it's costing taxpayers money. And what about all the applications and all the staff reports? And so everything comes to a halt. It's millions and millions of dollars.
As for the vote in the federal Conservative race and what happens, a Conservative source tells CBC News that the hundreds of thousands of ballots have already been printed and Brown's name is on them. Any votes for Brown will be ignored. Brown says he's looking into legal avenues and what his options are. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Brampton.
Hot, dry weather is causing headaches and worry for local farmers. In the month of June, 3 heat warnings were issued for Windsor, Essex. We sent our video producer Darren DiCarlo out to see how one lakeshore farmer is handling the heat.
When things get really bad, you see this curl in here? Yeah. They start to curl and close up to preserve their moisture. Well, it was a very tough spring. Probably one of the toughest springs on record for planting conditions. It turned real hot and dry. A lot of soybeans, some corn and a lot of soybeans had to be replanted, and some people just finished a week ago, replanting their soybeans for the second time because the first time the soybeans didn't come up. So farmers are a pretty optimistic group of people, and you know, I think, you know, we always hope that it's going to be, it's going to turn out okay in the end. Well, just the small rain we had here, it'll put a little bit more moisture back in the grain, so it'll take a day or two for the grain moisture to come back down to be able to start harvest. So we're hoping it's going to be a decent outcome with the yields. You know, like I said, you know, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature and what she sends us, and that goes in, year out. It's, you know, 80% is out of our control. So that's why it's critical the 20 or so % that you do have control of, that you try and do to the best of your abilities. And
hopefully some of today's rainfall helped some of those farmers out a little bit. Now with that rain today, some relief from the heat we've been getting, and tonight partly cloudy skies. Your weather forecast is coming right up. Stay with us. Kabir Bagaria joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. Kabir, finally some cooler temperatures again today, but how long will it last? Take us through this.
Absolutely. Well, if we're taking a look at southern Ontario specifically, things are still going to be warm, but relatively we'll see that start to dissipate, especially as we go into our evening today. You're going to see widespread cloud cover, and that's going to continue into the overnight going into our day tomorrow. You'll see that lovely high pressure system locking things up. So you're going to get some nice spurts of sunshine going into our day for tomorrow. And then later on into the evening, we're going to see widespread cloud cover, hopefully giving us some relief from that very, very warm temperature. Now, in terms of our precipitation, look at this. We're fairly and relatively clear, actually, when we're talking about southern Ontario. And that trend is actually going to go ahead and continue. And a big thing to pay attention to is that feels like temperature, because really and truly things could get quite humid. In terms of this evening, let's see what we have here. Windsor is going to be 23. And for much of southern Ontario, the low 20s is where we're going to see things hover for the most part. Now, as we take a look more so at the long range, this is where I wanted to highlight the feels like temperature. So going into our day tomorrow, you're going to see that feels like really sitting into the 30s. Same thing for our Friday. But then once we break things down over the rest of the week, you can see we take a little bit of a dip into our Saturday, and our Sunday we're kind of going back up. I'm going to move over to this side now as well, and you can see that 30-degree temperature for next week is going to feel like 36. So really go ahead and get ready for some of that weather that's coming up. Now, in terms of the rest of Canada, things are looking a little bit more wet than they will be for southern Ontario. But as we can see, we're not going to be looking through very, very much moisture. And that's, as I mentioned, that high pressure system that has been around for the region. Now, otherwise, if you are going outside and embracing some of this warm weather, especially with all of the sunshine that we have here, it is important that you make sure you do use sunscreen, especially as those UV rays do come down on you. And in terms of the rest of our day for today, we're looking relatively nice and warm. Tomorrow morning, again, just with that cloud cover, but dry. Really, really great dry weather coming up for you.
Thanks so much for that, Kabir. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at some alternative ways to grow fruits and vegetables. Stay with us. Welcome back. With climate change, a loss of farmland, and the rising cost of food, we need to rethink of more sustainable and efficient ways to grow produce. Could vertical farming be a way to keep fruits and vegetables local year-round? Talia Ricci reports.
One of the things with a controlled environment is that it's often best to keep parameters for one sort of plant so that you can optimize that one plant's growth.
We've heard good things grow in Ontario. Well, these farmers say good things can grow indoors too.
Vertical farming is effective because not only can we take a small footprint of space and make it more productive than a single layer of farm out on the earth, but also because we're able to control the environment to maximize the growth potential of any one plant by giving the exact sunlight recipe, the exact amount of nutrients.
This center at Durham College can produce around 700 heads of lettuce per week, which are used in the culinary and food box programs. Vertical farms like this have been popping up in the GTA.
Here we have some arugula. This is a pak choy right here.
The chief farmer at Mighty Harvest says down the road, more local vertical farms could save customers money.
Make that more cost advantageous to compete better with California and Arizona product or American product in general. That would be much better for the consumer in the long run and be better for our local economy as well.
And so what we're doing in this 25,000 square foot, takes around 12 and a half acres to do the amount of product we're growing here.
The CEO of Vision Green says the pandemic put a spotlight on Canada's reliance on imported products.
First of all, it takes a lot of time to get here. Second of all, it's not always getting here. It's subject to weather conditions. And what vertical farming does is alleviate from all those things. Within 24 hours of harvesting, it's available for consumers to consume.
Data from the 2021 Census of Agriculture shows Ontario is losing 319 acres of farmland daily to urban sprawl. That's the equivalent of around 9 family farms a week. The province says it's encouraging municipalities to work with them to identify and protect vital agricultural land. The Ontario Federation of Agriculture says more needs to be done.
Ontario grows over 200 different commodities for food, fuel, and fiber. And the more land we lose, the less likely we are to have some of those commodities. Vertical farming takes a tremendous amount of energy.
These vertical farmers still believe the industry has a role to play in the future of food.
Is it the solution to all of our food needs? It's a part of the puzzle.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Rhinos are returning to Mozambique decades after they became extinct in the African country. A group of rangers traveled to South Africa to capture and sedate some black and white rhinos. The animals were then transported about 1,600 kilometers to a national park in Mozambique. The park is hoping to have about 40 rhinos added to the population over the next 2 years. Wildlife numbers in the country have been affected by poaching and a 15-year civil war. Conservation officials say the return of rhinos is a benefit to the ecosystem there. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night.